Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our very first special edition of the Versus series. I am Uncle Bill.
And I'm the creepy Kentuckian, if you will. What movies are we putting up against each other tonight, Uncle Bill?
Well, we've never done this before, but, this is a big thing. And we are going to have a contest between two of the most popular movies out there to see which one is actually superior in our eyes. So we're going to be breaking down stuff like the cast. We're going to be breaking down the music. We're going to be breaking down the plot, the characters, shit like that. All to see which one is a better film in our eyes. So up this week, we have two of the most notable classic horror movies of all time. Friday the 13th versus Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, those are probably the two big ones of the 80s, for sure. And I don't know, this one, it's going to be a little bit more difficult than I originally thought, if you're really doing a comparison fairly with these two. What do you think?
Both of them, in my mind, are they had a lot of room for improvement, and maybe are not even like the best one in the series in some ways, but still, like, they're the ones that kicked off an entire genre of film, of horror films anyway. So that should be interesting to say the least.
Well, I think ultimately, what puts these two together is it was the 80s, and there were two huge horror villains in the 80s, and it was Freddy Krueger versus Jason Voorhees. Now, Jason Voorhees wasn't in the first movie as his later incarnation of the big, brooding, hockey mask wearing fucker. So, what we must do in this, right? Which film has the best look as far as the killer goes? And what do you think? Because it would be Mrs. Voorhees in this one and Freddy Krueger in part one, which they were still kind of tweaking the look of Freddy.
So if you start out with that premise, right? Like if you start out with, which one's better, Mrs. Voorhees or Freddy Krueger? I think that's a no-brainer, though, really. I mean, don't get me wrong, because I think that Betsy Palmer's performance in Friday the 13th is like one of the most unsung horror performances of all time. Like, I think that she's one of the best villains in any horror film, and she pulled that role off amazingly. But fuck, man, Freddy Krueger, and even in the first one, like, his whole thing is like he's got the one-liners and he's running around, cutting his finger off and terrorizing people and kind of just like toying with them before they die. So it's got to be Freddy, right?
Right. So we'll give one to Freddy as far as the look goes. I would agree with you there. Now, you mentioned the cast earlier.
Yeah.
So you've got kind of ensemble cast in both of these movies. You've got the debut of Johnny Depp as Glenn, the Nancy's boyfriend. You've got Heather Langenkamp, Nancy, Tina. You've got Rod, which is Jesus Garcia or whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah. John Saxon.
John Saxon. The sheriff. Macaroni Blakely.
Right.
Isn't that?
Right. But then, if you look at it on the other side of the spectrum too, you've got the introduction of Kevin Bacon to go with the introduction of Johnny Depp. So you got those two fighting it out. And you got Adrian King and basically nobody else. And I fucking can tell you their name.
You've got Harry Crosby.
Bing Crosby's.
Bing Crosby's son, who I think he become a very, he's a multimillionaire at some other, I don't know if he was a stockbroker or what, but he's major money, nothing related to the entertainment industry, which is why it's very difficult to get his signature, by the way. It's interesting, though, because, there's not any names. Adrian King is kind of the lead in Friday the 13th. Heather Langenkamp is the lead in Nightmare on Elm Street. People may frown at this, but for me, of those two, I think Adrian King does the better job.
God damn, that is an unpopular opinion, I guarantee it.
I don't know. I think Heather Langenkamp does fine, but she's almost fucking annoying, like in the first movie. I thought.
You're
So
right. She kind of is. She's kind of like, I don't know. There's certain scenes where you can really tell she's acting. Like she's not very natural in the
right,
scene.
yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that then. I'll give you Adrian King too.
You want to give that one to Friday the 13th
Let's give that one to Friday the 13th. Yeah.
cast? Okay. Let's go into the music then. You mentioned the music as well.
See, this is probably the toughest. This is probably going to be the toughest one of any of things related to these two movies because, on the one hand, you've got the classic like Harry Manfredini, you know, all that,
Right.
and on the other hand, though, you got Charles Bernstein. I'm pretty sure who did the down 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 down, and then the fucking 1 2 Freddy's coming for you and
Right.
all that.
Interesting thing is both of those themes would carry on throughout the entire series as well. So those were never, aside from like some of the terrible fucking New Line movies that they would later go on and do with the Friday the 13th series. But yeah, I mean those lasted the hands of time, if you will.
So, man. Okay, I mean, if I'm being honest, like, I don't think there's a more memorable 80s score than Friday the 13th. So, I would probably have to pick Friday the 13th.
I gotta agree with you, Uncle Bill. I don't know if we're going to disagree much on here, but yeah, in horror movies in general, is there anything more iconic? And it's not even really music. It's not. I mean, it was a echoplex effect back in the day that Harry
Yeah.
Manfredini. And if you go on our Patreon page, you can listen to the interview. He talks about creating that. That that's probably the most iconic sound in a horror movie. So I mean, you can't. Even though a Nightmare on Elm Street score is amazing, I love it. I wish they would release, the soundtrack on its own without having to buy the big $300 fucking box set, so I could have it. But yeah, I would go with Friday the 13th as well.
I mean, yeah, like, I think that there's parts of that score that are clearly, like, rip-offs of Psycho. And, who hasn't ripped off Psycho at some point or another? But honestly, like, the only thing I can think of more that's on par with that is probably Jaws, right? The da da da, where people just, if you played it, they immediately would know what it was. Same thing with that, if you played that, just that one thing, like maybe 2 seconds of it, people would immediately know what it is. So,
How about the atmosphere in the movies? I think that's a very important aspect too. They had two very different types of atmosphere in Friday the 13th versus Nightmare on Elm Street. I would go with Elm Street on this one with the mood.
I would too, because I feel like that as much as Friday the 13th tries, it's like it's an exploitation looking film. There's not much real atmosphere to it other than just like it looks gritty and kind of shady. But in Nightmare on Elm Street with the boiler room and all that, like all those set pieces, like with walking down the alleyway with the arms, there's just like that's all atmosphere. Like all that is disturbing in and of itself. So
No.
I give that to Nightmare on Elm Street too. But what about this too? We haven't talked about this though. What about the kills? Like between the two movies, which movie had the better kills?
I would go with Friday the 13th on this just because I'm in for like the gruesome kills and just the creative, like they had Savini doing all the creative death sequences and stuff like that. But there was some creative stuff in Nightmare on Elm Street as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of the effects work for that time period. They really, I mean, they kind of pushed the envelope on what they could do with prosthetic makeup effects and stuff like that too. I don't know. It'd be tough. I think I would go with Friday the 13th on that one though.
to me, it's down to this, really. It's down to the spear scene in Friday the 13th versus, like, the opening scene with Tina in Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Where she's up on the ceiling and they rotate the room and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would give it to Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay, so we're tied 2.5. So they're pretty neck and neck. You got 2.5 versus 2.5. We'll do it that way.
So then, here's what it comes down to then, right? The ending. Which film has the better ending?
Well, this one's, to me, this is not even close. It's Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it has to
definitely.
be. It's not Real Street ending sucks. And I think everybody universally kind of sees that now.
Well, they pull a fucking blow-up doll through a window like the... I'm like, what the fuck? Even when I was a kid and I watched that, I was like, that looks fucking bad. Really bad. So, yeah, I mean, the ending definitely goes to Friday the 13th. The effects, Curly Jaws mentioned that. I guess that would go with the death scenes and kind of...
Yeah.
I would say as far as special effects goes, Friday the 13th they didn't really have a whole lot of special effects sequences really at all. But Nightmare on Elm Street was more of that type of movie. Showcasing, and it would later go on to, they would outdo themselves on each movie really as far as the effects goes. So that the effects by itself, I would say Nightmare on Elm Street. But overall though, looking at it as an overall movie, and I guess this is how we'll...
That's what we're doing, No, I mean, I think that pretty much seals the deal, which I did not really expect it to turn out this way, but I think we know.
Yeah, we added up, but would that be what you, in your head, thought before? Friday the 13th wins if you go into the separate categories like we did here tonight. But honestly, like, just thinking off the top of my head, I was thinking, well, Nightmare on Elm Street's a better movie. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing I was thinking, too. I was like, well, surely, like, Nightmare on Elm Street, because whenever people mention those two movies, they always say, well, you know, Nightmare was the classic movie. But was it really, though? Or is that just a figment of your imagination based on nostalgia?
Who's to say? Let's ask Tom Atkins.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you guys, tuning in, let us know which film is better. Friday the 13th, 1980, or Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. We have to give the years because there's pathetic fucking remakes for both that can go to hell. I'm sorry, Curly Jaws, but they both suck. They're terrible.
There's dipped in ass.
Yeah. But let us know, guys, what you thought of the video as well, and we may do some more of these. I mean, we could even go back and say, hey, Friday the 13th versus Halloween. We can do that too.
That's right. We got limitless kind of matchups here.
Limitless options and techniques, baby. We can do rock and roll horror movies, if you will.
That's right. We can
whatever.
We can do killer psychic women. We can do snakes.
We can do the ghoulies versus the munchies, baby. So that is it, guys. I hope you all enjoyed, and stay tuned for more of that creamy horror goodness. Brought to you almost daily and fresh from DEADPIT.com. Give us the thumbs up.
Up your butt.
Like, subscribe. And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a if you do.
I want you to. I want you to.
I don't care.
Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that, pal.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. And click that bell.
For this video officially, it's Curly Jaws has a message for you. Go on over to shop.deadpit.com and go look at their Teen Public store right now. You got some new shirts like the Curly Jaws official t-shirt, which is brutal and badass. You got the Yummy Gummy shirt with the captain himself on the shirt. You got Uncle Bill's face on a fucking shirt. You got the Final Girl shirt. You got all these shirts over at shop shop.deadpit.com. Get them before they're all out, especially the new one, Bedtimes in 39. It doesn't get better than that, so go on out. Check out these shirts at shop.deadpit.com. Go look at their Team Public store. You're going to have a good old time. Get them all!
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. DeadPit on Patreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows and fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.